Alice, did you see they updated No Man's Sky?
You should talk about
more,
it.
The planets are more real. It's called World Planet 1. 8 years after it got released. This is the Planet 1.
My favorite, like I said, my space game
Oh.
just never got released, period. So
You can play No Man's Sky now.
What is up, people of the internet? Welcome back to another episode of the Waveform podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Marques.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm David.
And this week, it's a mix of stuff.
It is.
I would say,
Every
a mix
week.
of stuff. Yeah.
Every week.
There's no theme. It's just a mix. But it's all new. We've got AI stuff. We've got new leaks of devices. We've got new cameras. But we also have one headlining major piece of news. Yeah. Kind of the elephant in the room.
I feel like we like to put the really big thing in the middle of the podcast normally, but this was just too big not
This
to
might
talk
take
about
up
right
most of the show. So
Yeah,
we
I
need
think
to
so.
start with it immediately.
I mean, I don't want to get too bogged down with it, but it's one of those pieces of news that you kind of can't get to without, if you don't talk about it, people are like, why aren't you talking about it? So we'll address it. HomePod Mini was updated. And it's midnight now instead of black. Oh, yeah.
This is
That's
heavy
the whole
day.
that's the whole thing. Yeah. So have you seen the side by sides actually?
I'm not convinced that
It's like the Office meme. It's the same photo.
It's like, are we sure that they didn't actually change the color and just change the name?
I think it's a test.
All I know is that the materials are now 100% recycled instead of 90%.
Yeah, it was 90. Now it's 100.
Now it's 100. But did the color actually change?
It didn't look like it to me, but I did not look that hard at it.
Apparently, the HomePod
did.
Mini.
This is the most I've spent even thinking about this color right
The
now.
HomePod Mini only had space gray and white to start, and they started adding colors randomly. There's
Which is
a
cool.
yellow, and now there's an orange and a blue.
I'm still a HomePod Mini stan, just so you know.
The Midnight could actually be a different color
I've asked
because
about this.
We had a conversation about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might be kind of different because the midnight color itself is one of those ones where it does look super different in different lights and maybe just those photos. But if there was space gray and midnight, they're probably almost the exact same thing.
Yeah, cool. Okay, yeah, we got through that. That's huge for us.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of pixel leaks though. We should jump into
Again.
because
Again.
there's
What year is it?
every year the Pixel is the most leaked phone of all time. They've got to have some kind of record for this. And now we're getting, I guess, seemingly more confirmation that there are a bunch of Pixels, and they're Pixel 9s. So there's Pixel 9, Pixel 9 XL, and then a
Pixel 9 Pro.
a Pro, and then a Fold 2.
Pro Fold 2.
Pro Fold 2.
Pro Fold 2, even though the first Fold doesn't have the word Pro in the name.
Nope.
So there's a Pixel Fold, now there's a Pixel Pro Fold 2.
Well, it's not called 2. It's just Pixel 9 Pro Fold.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Pixel 9
Because
Pro
now
Fold.
it's
You're right.
part
Not
of the
2?
It's considered part of the Pixel 9 portfolio.
So
It's
there's-
doing the
Pixel
thing.
9 Pro Fold.
It's doing the thing I've been asking them to do with the A series for
Yeah.
years. Also, I think
Okay.
we need one of those whiteboards that says podcasts since last Pixel leak, and that we just erase every week and put 0 again.
It just says 0 every time. Yeah. What do you think of them? Are you interested
We're
in
talk-
any of the Pixels?
Well, the Fold is the big leak that we got this week, the kind of official photos of it. We talked, I think it was last week, we talked a little bit about the different sizes of the 9, 9 Pro, 9 Pro XL, but this week is the 9 Pro Fold, and it looks terrible.
I
What, Ellis?
don't hate it.
You don't hold.
You guys are crazy.
Okay,
don't hate it.
Hold on, I have a question then.
Okay.
Last time we talked about this, you said you didn't like the visor on the 9 leaks. You thought it looked bad. Mm-hmm. But you think this looks good.
No, I don't think it looks good.
Okay.
So the reason that I dislike the visor on the 9 leaks is because it feels less of a commitment to the visor. The visor before was all the way to the sides, and it would blend in with the side rails. And so that made it feel very committed and decisive and obviously a Pixel. And when you separate it from the rails, it just feels like an island now, and it feels like the precedent is set that this visor thing is not that important to the Pixel. And so now this is the least visor-like.
This is, yes. I think the other one still has the same vibe of it. Like, it's still very obviously a Pixel, and it's just the modernized version of it, which is funny because it's only the visor's like 2 or 3 years old.
It feels cyberized in a way.
It's updated. It's like in this new squared off design all around, including the camera. Are you?
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Oh, sorry. You're talking about.
No. Now let's go to the Fold.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Someone please explain this camera bump.
It's just an island.
I want to hear Ellis explain it. He's getting ready to yap over
This
there.
is coming from someone who's owned an iPhone since they were 15 years old. So, take it with a grain of salt. But to me, the Pixel's gone through many iterations, right? We had the original Pixels with no definitive bump. Then we were in the Geordie LaForge RoboCop era of visor Pixels. Then we achieved bump Pixel after that, not going to the edges.
Well, visors have only been since the 6.
I know. I'm fast forwarding through the history here. Give me a sec.
Okay.
To me, now since the visor, they took it off the edges, it became more of a discernible bump. We've gone back and forth. To me, the definitive Pixel characteristic as a non-Pixel user is the bean.
What?
The bean. How
inside of the bump.
whatever, if it's a bump, it's a visor, no matter what, that camera is in a bean. And the fact that the 9-fold render leak, whatever, 2 beans.
Two.
Are you talking about?
I'm into it.
Talking about how
are you talking about the sub bean inside of the mega bean?
Yeah.
No. There is no mega bean. There is just the bean. The bean can exist in a visor, in a bump, in whatever.
Well, there was, but what
pill.
he's saying is the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro, the
didn't really
bean
have
was
beans.
longer. Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
always
what he's
some
saying.
sort of a cutout in the visor, and the visor went from one look to another.
The Pixel 6 did not, though. The Pixel 6 was just glass.
Guys,
and
I know
black
this
the
is
whole way.
Yeah, the
controversial.
Pixel 6 didn't.
Yeah.
But I think as
I think is
fans
the
and
best looking one.
appreciators of the Pixel, it's time to recognize the bean.
Yeah, but Pixel 6 didn't have a bean.
Pixel 6. Oh, and that was a good Pixel too.
That was like the
7 was
start of the
better.
visor, and then they added the bean.
Yeah.
Because they went from glass to metal.
8 was the best so far for sure.
I like 6 the best.
8 feels the most
Okay,
refined.
but seven definitively is beaned up. Okay, let's all just be in agreement there. So the Pixel
I just
6
wanna-
was a special edition out there. So when in the Fold they were like, recognize the bean, lean into the bean. This is the bean phone.
If for some reason there's an audio listener who doesn't understand what he's saying, inside of the visor from the 7 to now, the cutout of the metal of the visor for the glass of the cameras is an oval.
Some may describe it as a pill shape.
That's what I would
Yeah.
say.
I mean, a bean usually has a
Beans come in
Bump in
all
the
shapes and
center.
sizes. Who's to say this isn't a digital
pills,
bean?
including pill-shaped beans.
I think most people say pill, but I'm down for the bean. It's more fun.
Where are we?
I don't know.
Andrew,
Someone describe.
you
Okay.
asked.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about
Well, the camera bump for the Pixel Fold, the Pixel 9 Fold
the Pixel 9 Pro Fold.
Pro Fold is a curved rectangle with 2 ovals / beans inside of it, left aligned
A squircle,
with
we might
what?
even say.
Yeah, with a Urkel because it's a
squircle.
rectangle though. It's not a square.
Well, squares are rectangles.
Yeah, but
That
a
is true.
rectangle is not a square.
You're right. Let's continue.
So it has like 2 lenses in each, it looks like, although we'll get that back to exactly what it is. And then it just has this like right aligned flash and microphone that is just in no man's land.
Yeah.
There's so much extra space over there for
All right.
this.
Want my hot take? They would have just put the same camera array as the Pixel 9 Pro and Pixel 9 Pro XL, except the Fold is probably slightly more narrow. And currently, the design of the Pixel 9 Pro and Pixel 9 Pro XL shows the camera bump visor taking up pretty much the entire back of the phone. And I would bet you that it's like 2 millimeters more narrow, and they're like, oh, we can't fit it, so we just have to vertically stack them. At first, I thought they might have done it for like the what is spatial video capture.
Oh.
But they're using the telephoto and the wide, and I don't really
on top of each other.
See, yeah, because the whole thing, like the whole reason the iPhone switched back to having the cameras on top of each other now, like directly on top of each other. So when you turn it sideways to capture spatial video, they are horizontally aligned on the same axes so that they can do parallax. This, you theoretically, I guess, still could do, but usually you do that with a wide camera in the main camera, not the telephoto camera in the main camera, because now they're horizontally separated.
Yeah.
Anyway, it looks bad, I think, is my take. Ellis is trying to hit the buzz button for no, but he can't.
Damn, steal
Wait,
my thunder. Why
Can we go
don't
back,
you?
Marquez? You said you didn't hate it.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's not.
Really?
I think the easy... Look, we get leaks all the time, and I think our strongest reaction to leaks is always on the design because it's not on. We don't know any
Agreed.
specs. We don't know any features. We just see the design, and that's all we can react to. And so whatever's different about it versus the old thing, we will react strongly negatively because we always do. And then 2 months in, we'll be like, yeah, it looks like every other camera bump. Remember when we first got the like triple cameras on the iPhone? Everyone went, it looks like a stovetop. What are they doing? That's the ugliest camera bump ever. And then 2 weeks later, we were all like, yep, that's how it is.
I think that was at least like, and actually I had that reaction to the last iPhone where in the triple camera array of what you're talking about was at least like semi-symmetrical. This one now with the microphone and whatever that extra sensor is, it felt a little more all over the place. This feels just like so not even remotely symmetrical, or
It's all lined up. It's 2 rows.
but
there's a
the
huge
microphone has like the microphone dot has just like the same amount of space as the large sensor in it.
And there's also just there's a huge metallic.
It's all the
gap
dead
to
space on the
of
right
it.
that I don't like.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
Every camera bump sucks. I don't know what to tell you.
It's-
Like,
I mean, I don't disagree with that.
It's also gonna rock on a table.
yes,
thing.
many of them. Yeah.
I know that when the Pixel Fold first got announced, it was like, but now I think it looks really good. The original Pixel Fold. Besides the interior.
Well, they also changed the dimensions of this new one, which
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear what you
Right.
think about because it seems very anti what you liked about the Pixel Fold.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So what Andrew's talking about is that it's more of a OnePlus Open format now. It almost looks exactly like that kind of style. Whereas the previous Pixel Fold was a lot more like the Oppo Find N, which was like a passport style. And I really, really liked the short aspect ratio of the original Pixel Fold.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's gone forever because people don't like small phones, apparently.
I'm curious to try it. Yeah, I definitely like the first Pixel Fold, which I think I said in the video. It is the easiest. It's the best foldable phone to use open.
Yeah.
It's the best foldable phone to use
yeah.
closed
Yeah,
because that aspect ratio of the screen was great. And open, it suffered a little bit because it was so good closed that it was like more squat and I had a smaller inside screen. So maybe this is them going, sacrifice a little bit of the outside usability, make the inside usability better, which I think makes sense. If you're making a folding phone, you should make sure the reason you're folding it is still good.
Yeah.
Just going to show you that.
I think that looks better. I think I knew you were going to bring that up, but I think that looks better.
There are bad camera bumps out there.
Okay.
At least that takes up like the whole back of the phone, you know?
Only because they put a screen on the sides.
I'd rather a
You
screen
can have
than
your
just
phone
this.
upside down and you can know what time it is.
I also
Guys, what is that?
the Xiaomi
Mi 11 Ultra.
Thank you.
yes, one of the largest camera bumps on the back, and there's also like a Poco phone that did that as well.
There's text on the back of the phone.
Yeah,
Lest we forget the Nokia 9 PureView that had the spider arachnid array, the 9 cameras.
I also want to say I recognize that what we are complaining about is extremely minuscule.
I know,
but
it's stupid to complain about.
but it's just kind of
That's what we do here.
yeah.
That's what the leaks are. The leaks are basically, here's what the new design is probably going to look like. There are some leaks pointing to a large camera overhaul in general, which I'm curious about because that could mean new sensors, it could mean this new software, it could mean new capabilities. But again, we don't know if that's true. We're all hoping that Tensor gets better. We're all hoping that there's more RAM and a brighter screen and faster refresh rates and all that fun stuff. And that's possibly also in the pipeline, but we don't get that from these leaks. We just get to see the look of it.
Was it true that the original Pixel Fold was one tensor behind the
Right. I think it was. It was Tensor 2.
Pixel 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like Tensor 1. Or was it Tensor 2? Or it was Tensor 2, and the Pixel
Tensor
8
3.
got Tensor 3.
Yeah.
So it's nice that if they all come out at the same time, hopefully they'll all be on Tensor 4.
That would be nice.
Even though apparently it's not switching to TSMC until Tensor 5. So it's very possible that these also suck.
Yeah.
One cool thing, though, we do see from this is on the inside, we now have just a top right-hand corner hole punch cutout for the camera versus that, like, would you even call that a notch? It was like a corner hole cutout for the camera that took up a lot of real estate. So this is more screen real estate on the inside.
I like corner cameras. I'm fine with them.
Yeah. I don't use the inside camera in most foldables most of the time. Which I think was why people would argue that Samsung's underscreen one is not a terrible idea because it's a horrible camera, but it's like you almost never use that one unless you're maybe like propping it up, trying to do a Zoom call or something like that. Then,
and you don't care about your
you don't
quality
have to look
as much,
amazing.
then
Yeah, so I think most selfies will come from the outside screen's hole punch camera, but
but this is
that's
a
fine.
proper cutout, which means that it's not like an under display camera. It's going to be super fuzzy under the pixels. So
yeah, I'm fine with that.
It is also funny that Samsung has never improved that's been around for like 3 to 4 years, and they have literally never tried to make it better.
Yeah, I got to talk about that in the review. It's the same.
Yeah.
It also seems like it's getting, still on the 9 Fold Pro,
Pro Fold.
losing battery size despite being a larger phone. Am I right in that? It says
Classic Google take.
45.
Oh my God. There's so much light in this room.
It
and
looks
it's,
like I am in a haze.
Yeah, it's a classic Google decision. I don't know if you remember, the Pixel 4 had like really, really terrible battery life because they reduced the battery life like fairly significantly from the Pixel 3. And then obviously most of the reviews were like the battery on this like does not last at all. And then I think it was, who was in charge of Pixel at that time? It wasn't Hiroshi. It was not Dave Burke. I don't know. Whoever was in charge basically came out and was like, it's insane that you guys like made this camera or the battery this bad.
right.
Like he went to the team and basically yelled at his team and he was like, why would you reduce the battery life? And it was like, bro, this is your product. Like you should have been in charge of this.
Yeah, that might have been a Rick Osterloh moment.
It was Rick Osterloh. That's what it was. It was like they reduced the battery capacity by like 500, 600 milliamp hours. And then they were like, and they added the Soli radar, which just nuked the battery completely.
One of the worst features on a phone.
Anyway, yeah. That phone was amazing except for the battery and the Soli, but other than that, it was good.
Well, long story short, check out some Pixel leaks. Let us know what you think. Maybe you think they're ugly. Maybe you think they're not so bad. But we'll learn a lot more about this phone. I guarantee.
Yes, stay tuned for next episode where
There
we
will
also talk about Pixel leaks.
Yeah,
probably
there will be more.
I agree with you, though, that I'm sure that after a couple of months, we will be just used to it and we won't think it's that ugly anymore.
Yep.
There
As
are
is
a lot of
tradition.
camera bumps that I have always thought initially that were super ugly, and now I'm like, whatever. So
It's a bit of a tradition around here to complain about camera bumps on phones that we weren't going to buy. And then they come out, and then that's it. And that's the end of the story. That's the whole tradition.
Now I'll make sure to make fun of any of you who have one
well, I'm definitely going to try.
in this office.
Speaking of folding phones,
Got him.
there's a feature on some of these new Samsung phones where you can draw on an image and then it can turn that sketch that you drew onto the image into something real that's like a part of the image now. And yeah, that looks real.
An AI-generated asset to go on top of your image.
Yes.
Exactly. And it's fine. The thing is, what is a photo again, right? Like we don't really, these are just things that are cool ideas that they've come up with that they're just throwing in and people are trying them out. It turns out they work. And there are a lot of things that you can draw and like make in your photos that kind of are passable at a first glance that you'd never look twice at. And
This
that's it.
This one feels past the what is a photo because it feels so obviously not a photo, but
I mean,
some of them are decently realistic.
there are some that are pretty realistic.
That one with the cat that they posted on The Verge looks really good for a second until you realize the cat is the size of a small car.
The cat looks like a really real cat, though.
It does.
This does look like a photo of a
It's
cat.
just taking the crawfish evolution of 3xing its size.
Yes.
Every
So I took
couple
a
weeks.
picture of you guys earlier, and I drew a butterfly on your hand, which is where I think we would expect a butterfly to be. And honestly, the first glance at what it created is like kind of passable.
It's huge.
Honestly, the fact that it put the butterfly's legs
on
like
your
in the middle of my
Yeah.
hand and
there's, like,
added some shadow.
and stuff, right?
Yeah.
The compositing on these is really realistic. It's mostly that the image itself looks like a little bit cartoony and doesn't have the same like processing as like a camera processing, and that's how you can tell that it's not part of the image.
There's also a tiny AI generated content watermark at the bottom left corner that if you aren't looking for,
Oh my goodness,
you might
I
not see.
Don't see
It's because
Wow.
it's white and like there's a
white
white
text.
table
sparkly
that's
emoji,
really-
and it just says AI generated content.
It's white text on a pretty busy background, so
Nice.
it's kind of hard to see. But
Yeah.
it is a thing that you can play with and is kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's probably not a useful feature to most people, but
Can
it's
I-
a fun
Can't
gimmick to
wait
play with.
Can I do
to
one
get
of you?
this feature.
Yeah. Allison Johnson posted a bunch of these on The Verge, and a lot of them are very funny.
How do I do it?
She drew
Sorry.
a cat in the middle of a street, and the cat is like massive, but looks very, very realistic.
Yeah.
She drew like a really, rough rendition of a bumblebee on top of a flower, and it made like a really realistic looking bee.
Right.
And it made it out of focus, like that part of the image was out of focus, and that looks really real.
Yeah. So I think it's the good enough at first glance test that
Yes.
it passes. Like if I was scrolling on Twitter or Instagram and I saw that and I wasn't thinking about AI,
You
I
wouldn't.
wouldn't think twice.
Totally.
I wouldn't check and I would just believe it and move on with my day.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty impressive threshold for these like images you draw with your finger on your phone to
Yeah.
pass. But yeah, once you actually check, you can kind of immediately see the flaws.
Yeah.
So that's where it lives right now.
Right. I think that this is going to be a very weird period of time because these platforms are very bad at detecting what's actually AI versus just like slightly AI modified. And they'll just tag everything as AI, even if it's not. So at this point in time, you kind of have to look for images just like you have to look for AI generated text. If it feels like it was written by a high schooler, then it's probably AI generated. If it feels like it's like summarizing something and you're in your English 3 class, probably AI generated. Same thing with this. If anything looks off at all, just pixel peep a little bit and you'll probably start to see some
Yeah,
weird
zoom
stuff.
in on the fingers.
You know what I cannot wait to use this for?
What?
So you know that one image where someone's like in an apartment complex and there's 4 buildings all around them and they're looking straight up and they take a picture of like a plane taking off. There's like a viral picture that happens all the time with travel influencers and everything like that. I'm just gonna go there and take that picture without waiting for a plane and then just draw in the
Draw
plane.
the plane. Yeah.
That's gonna be awesome. Or like in Brooklyn where the bridge is, that one street where they have the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah.
Just draw whatever you want there.
Yeah, or like there's an
sure.
In-N-Out in LA that's like right underneath where the planes land at LAX, and people like have to wait for the big plane to be extra
Not
low. and
anymore, baby.
Now you just draw it in there and you're good.
Guys.
And you didn't even have to blow your eardrums out.
Don't
You're
you
good.
care about realism? Don't you care about reality?
I just sent you guys a photo that I saw a little bit ago. That's like a fairly innocuous sort of meme photo. But the more you pixel peep, the more you realize like things aren't right. And I can't tell if it's AI or just like really bad computational photography.
I think
because,
that's a real photo.
This looks like a real photo to
Zoom
me.
in on.
No, look at the
look
sign
Look at
above
the
it.
text and look at the sign, and then look at the underside of
Oh.
the truck.
And the
Explain what it is.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
It's a post, and also look at the grill of the truck. It's a picture with the caption "Truck lifted too high to see the Porsche in front of him," and
the
it's like a
wheels.
big lifted truck that's sort of like backing or pulling over the back of a Porsche, seemingly some sort of Turbo S, perhaps a GT3 with the intakes.
It's a 718.
It's a seven, but yeah, it's like if you look at it, it's like, oh, this is a real photo, and then the more you pixel peep, it's things
Yeah.
don't look.
It's like why is there all that red in underneath the truck?
Yeah, that's non-existent. Or
that
like-
I'm wondering if it's like the bumper that just kind of got pulled down. But what I'm more interested in is the stoplight is like half missing,
and look at the font.
and the font in the
Yeah.
the thing that
is-
says limited is
a
like
weird one.
not. It's
The
definitely
weird thing about computational photography these days is that it always tries to do sharpening. And so like really bad regular phone photos that are zoomed in a lot,
Yeah.
the sharpening almost looks similar to AI text.
I know, and that's why I'm like,
It's really hard to tell the difference a lot of the time.
And it's like it doesn't really. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether this stupid meme is AI. But we now live in a time
where you can't tell.
Yeah, where it's like,
Yeah.
is this?
Yeah, normally I'd be like, well, it says CR30A, so maybe this is like Russia or something, but these are all American cars.
No, this is, I think that's supposed to say CA30A, like California Highway 30A.
Which maybe it is, and again, it's just like a super zoomed in shot that's trying to sharpen it, and it looks terrible. It's very possible. I don't know. Smartphones are not good at making text look normal when they're trying to upscale things.
This is a really weird image to me.
It's really weird. Look
It's
at the red
just so
light.
strange.
The red light is
The
like,
light is
That looks
so
like
messed up.
that's a weird light.
To me, all of this image looks real except for the
sign.
street sign and the red light.
Yeah.
no, but look at the suspension of the truck,
Yeah,
too.
the suspension looks weird too.
like
That all looks.
But it's
I
hard-
think
it's
that
just-
looks fine.
That looks like a fine, like it's a modified lifted truck with weird looking red suspension parts and a red grill.
And that also just got into an accident where the bumper's like half torn off.
right.
yeah, this is weird.
Interesting.
I think it's trivia time.
Okay. We told you it was going to be a grab back this week.
Trivia. So, not to spoil anything, but in our next few sections, we're going to be talking about some web scraping and crawling and all sorts of stuff. So,
Creepy.
I wanted to make this question about the classical version of that stuff, web crawlers. Specifically, there's lots of different names out there that computer scientists use to describe web crawlers. Which one did I make up?
Oh, no.
A, spider. B, automatic indexer. C, a web scudder. Or D, these are all real, baby.
This is going to be a trick
Have
question.
you ever done all of the above before?
I haven't.
I'm scared. So your answer would be, if you pick one, it's made up. But if you pick D, it's that they're all real.
Yeah, you are acknowledging that I didn't make up anything for this question.
This is either a trick question or a trick question, where you think it's a trick question, but that's the trick.
But here's the thing. You're right, but I feel like that's more fair. I would never give you a trick question without you guys all knowing there's the possibility of it being a trick question. You know, what's the fun
What's
in
the
being
point?
Exactly, you
Yeah.
know?
That feels like enough warning for it to be a trick question.
Yeah,
Or maybe that's the trick, like David said.
Oh,
trick
God.
question.
I'm confused.
All right, we're gonna rack our brains for a while probably on this, but the answers will be at the end as usual. We'll think about them, and we'll be right back. Support for Waveform comes from Eightsleep. There's nothing worse than tossing and turning in the middle of the night. If you're like most people, it's a temperature thing that keeps you up. A bed that's too hot or too cold is actually just about impossible to sleep in, which is why Eightsleep's pod is such a dream. You can add the pod to your existing mattress like a fitted sheet, and it will automatically cool down or warm up either side of your bed throughout the night. Their latest iteration, the Pod 4 Ultra, includes an adjustable base that actually elevates your mattress to a reading position, a relaxing position, or a comfortable sleeping position. It can even detect snoring and automatically adjust to lift your head by a few degrees to improve airflow and sleep quality. I've tried this for myself, and I'm a fan of just getting into a cool bed in a heat wave like we have now, so it's pretty sick. So you can visit 8sleep.com/waveform and use code WAVE to get $350 off Pod 4 Ultra. So that's EIGHT sleep.com/waveform and use code WAVE.
Support for this show comes from Meta.
Have a question or need how-to advice? Just ask Meta AI. Whether you want to design a marathon training program that will get you race ready for the fall, or you're curious what planets are visible in tonight's sky, Meta AI has the answers. Perhaps you want to learn how to plant basil when your garden only gets indirect sunlight. Meta AI is your intelligent assistant. It can even answer your follow-up questions, like what you can make with your basil and other ingredients you have in your fridge. Meta AI can also summarize your class notes, visualize your ideas, and so much more. The best part is you can find Meta AI right in the apps you already have: Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, and Messenger. Just tag Meta AI in your chat or tap the icon in the search bar to get started. It's the most advanced AI at your fingertips. Expand your world with Meta AI.
Support for Waveform comes from Shopify. Business owners can't get things off the ground without a dream. Maybe that dream is to design something that'll make people happier and healthier. Maybe the dream is to make something you already love even better. The only thing I know for sure is that you're not dreaming about your point of sale system, inventory management, and growth metrics. Those aren't the fun parts. So why not let Shopify handle that for you? Shopify is a global commerce platform that can help your business grow no matter what stage you're at. The platform makes it easier than ever to sell everywhere, combining a class-leading e-commerce platform with an adaptable in-person point-of-sale system. And according to Shopify, they can help convert more browsers into buyers with a checkout process that performs 36% better than comparable commerce platforms. So you can sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/waveform. So you can go to shopify.com/waveform now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/waveform. All right, welcome back. We, I don't know if you're watching the video version or listening, but we are actually wearing different things. And
I'm not.
well, the reason some of us are wearing different things is because we're recording this the next day, because we have since gotten extra news that actually affects what we're about to jump into, because we're about to talk about, Apple and training AI models on YouTube videos. But the news is we actually finally did get a statement from Apple after we recorded that. So we're jumping in now to share that statement just for clarification so you can hear it. Basically, the gist is Apple is clarifying that the data they used to train this model goes into this model, but this model is not being used in any of Apple's consumer-facing products like Apple Intelligence or Siri or any of that.
It is used for only research purposes.
Research purposes only is what they're saying.
Whatever that means.
A lot of these things have been research projects. Like ChatGPT was a research project and then turned into a full-fledged product.
True.
However,
Apple-
it is true that Apple is not currently using OpenELM in any of their consumer-facing products.
And that the physical data set that we are about to talk about for an extremely long amount of time
Too long.
is not planned on going into any consumer-facing models.
So the OpenELM language model that we're hearing about does have data from this company, but this language model isn't going into Apple Intelligence. That's the clarification.
Also, though, there are some other companies that use this piled data set that does include our transcripts that have either denied comments or not made comments. We kind of talk about it a little bit going further. And yeah, I still think a lot of the things we say are valid, even if we just talk straight about Apple in those senses, because this is happening not just with YouTube videos, but with art, but with music, but with all sorts of other different things that we've talked about in the past. And I still think it's a big thing we need to talk about going further.
And there's no comments from any of those other companies.
No.
When these companies are...
Yeah, there might be by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah. True. When these companies are literally running out of internet to scrape, and so they're training their models on model output, you know that they're going to start looking for any corner of the internet that they can take. So
yeah. So I feel like that's enough context to at least know the news that's happened since we recorded. So now we can jump into what we did record. Take it away, past self. All right, our next piece of news involves us a little bit. There was a headline that was going around yesterday, and I think they smartly included YouTubers' names because they knew they would talk about it, but here we are anyway, and it's fine. And it basically went along the lines of Apple and other major tech companies are stealing from MKBHD and other YouTube channels. And so people saw, whoa, Apple stealing from MKBHD, what's going on here? And the general zoom all the way out version of the story is, you remember Apple Intelligence and all these AI features that Apple's announcing. They have to train that on something. They have to acquire a bunch of training data. And part of the acquisition process is working with a bunch of companies that scrape data and come up with a whole bunch of training data for you to use if you're Apple. And one of the companies took a bunch of data, including transcripts from YouTube videos, which is, I believe, a violation of YouTube's terms of service.
yeah.
We'll get there. But,
You've gone 20 paragraphs into
Yeah.
this outline already.
But a lot of those videos are from YouTubers that you may know, like Mr. Beast or PewDiePie or Myself. We had a couple of videos in this data set, and there's a tool available for you to check which videos are included in the data set. So the long story short is they've made this headline that Apple has stolen YouTube content and put it in their training data for their AI. And that's kind of true. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of moving pieces, a whole bunch of facets to this story that are all equally kind of interesting. I guess we'll start at the beginning.
Yeah, you did long story short. Let's do short story long.
Yeah, now short story long.
Yeah.
So, okay. But there's a lot more like short story long now to unpack some of those pieces. So first part is Apple Intelligence is a bunch of models that run either in the cloud or on the iPhone. Apple makes the models, but Apple has to train the models on something. Same thing with ChatGPT. Same thing with Gemini. They have a data set that they are trained on.
Yeah.
So if you're Apple, you have to get all of this data, this corpus of human knowledge that you want to train it on, and that ends up being what's fed into the model. So yeah, they have to work with companies, they have to license information, they have to just acquire a whole bunch of this data to train their models on. And so that's part one, is they had to work with some of these companies who have existing data sets that Apple could buy.
Yeah, and like every AI company needs to train data, right? Like, and a lot of them are using other things. We talked a couple months ago about OpenAI being asked, like, from Joanna Stern, are you scraping YouTube videos? And their CTO, she was just kind of like, not sure about that, which is like the least reassuring answer possible.
There was an interview with Kara Swisher recently that she did, and she asked her point blank too, and she said, I don't know.
Which I think is the truth. I think that's the truth. I think
she should know, though.
Yes, she should know.
But it is basically like they're trying to include the entire like corpus of human knowledge, and so they've gone to all these bazillion places for as much data as possible, and they definitely can't guarantee that none of it is YouTube.
They could.
They should. With the amount of money that they have.
Yeah.
They can.
It's kind of like if you're building a smartphone and someone goes, can you guarantee that all of the materials came from sustainable places? And you can say that you've done the work for all your suppliers because you're not the one going and mining all the things. You're going to suppliers who you trust to tell you the truth, but your supplier could be lying to you. Your supplier could change things. Your suppliers could go out of business and you need a new supplier. All this stuff.
But also, let's be real, like all of these AI companies, like they don't have the ethics to care about this kind of thing because none of them have gotten in trouble for it.
Yeah, there's no repercussions.
There have been no repercussions. It's like there's a gold mine sitting right there and you have access to it and there's a sign in the front that says, not your property, but then you could go and take it anyway. Yeah. You're going to do that.
Yeah.
I would argue most of these companies have the abilities to do any of these things, but those abilities cost so much more money.
Right.
And that they're still putting profits first. So most of them, almost none of them are, but all of them have the opportunity to.
Sure. Yeah. They're moving fast. So
yes, and in AI especially, we're at like 10x speed here.
Move fast and break terms of service.
That's exactly
That's pretty much everything we're about to talk about in one sentence. So can we go to Eleuther off of that? Eleuther AI, which is the company we're going to be mostly focusing on?
Yeah. So that is one of the companies that Apple got its training data from.
Correct. And there was a Wired article on Tuesday that references a Proof News investigation of this company that is a nonprofit called Eleuther AI created this data set that they're calling The Pile, which is a nonprofit open source data set that is online. If you can go find it right now and download it. It's like 800 gigs or something like that. But it scraped the subtitles of over 170,000 YouTube videos from 48,000 different channels and put it in their data set for the use of training AI. Mm-hmm. And that includes people like us. We are in there because Proof News made a website, and we'll link it in the show notes, where you can search videos that are in this data set. Weirdly enough, all of ours are all YouTube originals. It's like the whole first season of Retro Tech. Mm-hmm. It has Mr. Beast videos, PewDiePie. It even has Crash Course from the Green Brothers had 1,800 videos inside that. I know. And even stuff that are like super copyrighted late night shows like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and John Oliver was included in that data set as well.
Because Eleuther AI on their site says empowering open sourced AI research. And just like OpenCrawl, which is a huge data set that OpenAI originally used to train ChatGPT, if you just go to a thing that's like, we gathered all this information not to make money, but just to do research, and then you take an open source thing, then you can say, oh, we didn't do anything illegal. We just took this open, publicly available data set, which OpenAI references all the time. They're like, I don't know if we took anything illegal, but we took publicly available information. And it's like, there is such a delineation between publicly available and like free to use. Those are not the same thing.
Public
and
domain.
I know that you know it. I know that you know it.
Yeah.
Like, don't act dumb here.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So, yeah, this is a gigantic data set with a ton of subtitles specifically. I feel like I'm glad it's not other parts of the videos too. It's not
like your voice and stuff like that.
Yeah, my voice and
That's
face
fair.
and all these other things about YouTube videos, but it is all of the words spoken in all of the videos.
What you made an interesting point on Twitter of is like, we as a channel specifically pay extra money to make sure that is not only super accurate, but then it helps us do in other languages, correct?
Yes.
Like,
So I pay for a human transcription of every video per the minute. And it's to make sure that, I mean, obviously we've had jokes about this in the past, but YouTube auto transcriptions are like pretty bad. So if you're hearing impaired, you don't want to deal with those. So we pay for these for every video. And so if they're scraping the subtitles, they're going to end up scraping from YouTube API what I uploaded because I replaced the uploaded captions. And so they're stealing paid
You
content
paid money,
actively.
and then they're taking the thing that you paid money for.
Yeah, and training whatever on it.
I
later.
do find it very funny if they just scraped so many videos where they didn't pay for the transcriptions, because a lot of the transcriptions are bad.
It's really
So
bad.
you have like pretty rough data mixed in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
as always. And the reason we can connect this to some of big companies like Apple and Nvidia is inside of their own papers talking about their AI models, they've referenced this data set called the pile. Apple, I think, in a paper talking about OpenELM, which is the model released at DubDub, correct? That like for some of their AI stuff, referenced the pile. So like we know that they are using this data set that has been caught scraping all these things. And there's just something like, I guess it's maybe not as weird because you're saying you're glad it doesn't have your voice and everything, but something about scraping straight subtitles and like, we get paid obviously by people watching our content by a view. We didn't even get the one singular view from the AI scraping our video, as they literally just straight up took everything with nothing back to it and just scraped all of the data, which later we're going to talk about is against the terms of service for YouTube. Scraping subtitle data is in there.
You know, you can scrape the entire internet, and there's all of this stuff about like you're scraping websites and people's writing and like the ethical implications of that and how that's messed up. But people don't write the same way that they talk. So if you're trying to make a chatbot that is the most human-like possible, YouTube is actually probably the most valuable data set on the entire internet, because people on there actually speak more like they normally speak and not how they write. And I just wanted to bring up very, very briefly, I used to contract for Samsung. I did work for Samsung in college, and I helped them train a Bixby model based on...
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
So it's your fault. David's ruined Bixby.
Because what they did was they were like, we need Bixby to like have more natural output. So we need you and a bunch of your friends to like basically use this client to message each other a bunch of messages as if you're having a natural conversation like 10,000 times. So they wanted me to message my friend like, hey, how's it going? Do you want to go to the gym later? But they were like, make it as natural as possible, but we need 10,000 of them by next week.
So they wanted you to make a data set.
Yeah, we did make a data
train
set.
it on.
But the problem was it was based on like repetition and the amount that we did, and not it was not based on like, here, use this chat app for the next month and we'll just take everything that you say. It was like, we just need this on this deadline. So we were just pumping out fake conversations that are definitely not the way that humans actually really interact.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm probably partially to blame for Bixby. But I'm just saying,
We'll continue to blame.
this is a much better data set, but there's like so many red flags.
I'll never forgive you, David.
So here's the devil's advocate point that keeps coming up that I think at least has some grounding in reality.
Okay.
What's the difference between a human taking inspiration from a song they heard and then making new music, and a robot taking inspiration from millions of songs that it's heard to make some new music?
Can you, within a couple hours, scrape 180,000 songs word for word with picture perfect memorization of every single word and everything in there?
No, but what's the difference in output? So
We don't know what the exact output of this is, but if it's saying just word for word things, then I would argue there's absolutely no, it's just the exact same thing.
I guess if the question is like, my output that I'm asking for is, I want a creative new blues song for whatever. Give me a 3-minute creative new blues song in the style that would go viral in 2024. And you ask a human to do that, and he'll use what inspiration, he or she will use whatever they know and whatever they've heard recently. And some of it's memorized and some of it's, I kind of remember some stuff that went well. And if you ask the robot to do it, both of them will take whatever they were inspired by, whether it's 180,000 YouTube transcripts or just the stuff that the human listened to recently, and they will both output something genuinely new because they're told not to copy, they're told to make something new. And what's the difference between inspiration and scraping in a way that these models are turning that data into new stuff?
I mean, do you want the physical thing right now that is like YouTube doesn't allow you to scrape off of its platform? It's like literally against the terms of service, or are you talking more broadly?
Like, I think more broadly, because yes, you're right.
We can get into that part
A
later.
human is allowed to watch YouTube videos and be inspired by them.
Sure.
And a robot is theoretically not allowed to do that.
There's an aspect even in that where if inspiration comes too close to copyright law, it can still get in trouble.
Yeah, remember when who was it that sued because the vibes were the same?
I thought Paramore and Olivia Rodrigo got a little too
They
close
had a thing.
in a song.
There was
there's been a bunch of lawsuits.
This
been a
is
lot of
100%
lawsuits over
happened
this.
before, and appropriate things have happened in copyright.
Also,
But
sorry,
that's judged on the output, not the input.
right.
I don't know if you can make an ethics claim based purely on like the material of the output, but I don't think we should forget the scale and then the idea of like who actually gets to benefit from
The
this.
work and
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like at the end of the day, like none of us have $1 billion. You know, we don't have access to data centers. We would all feel terrible about using an entire city's worth of energy in an afternoon. You know, nothing about this is good, you know, and it's just a way for people who already have a lot of resources to steal not just resources, but the means of generating more resources from people.
Right.
And then also, I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think we should all start preparing our brains in the next like 5 years to just conclusively say that like human beings matter more than computers. Like that, and that, in my opinion, and hopefully the robots don't kill me when they become sentient and like rise up or whatever. But it's like, I think at a certain point we should all be prepared to be like, this is better because it puts a human being in a place of power instead of a computer.
I agree.
Which at the end of the day, it's a silicon wafer that I could crush with my toe. You know,
I strongly agree with both those points, because if we were to, you know, if you have a multi-billion-dollar company, nearly a multi-trillion-dollar company, and you have like all the singer-songwriters that are just like trying to make a living, and then you just go, I'm just gonna take everything you did and not learn how to play the guitar and write good songs, and then replace all of you with AI-generated songs. You can only do that because you're a multi-trillion-dollar company. And I know that there's like not like a necessarily legal precedent that makes this like legally wrong, but like, do we collectively as a human species want to allow that kind of thing to happen?
Like in the reverse engineer situation where like a human being spends that tens of thousands of hours watching YouTube videos, learning how to use a camera, like learning to edit. At the end of the day, what they have accomplished is giving themselves a skill, and they can now be a part of the conversation that is YouTube. You know what I mean? But when a company like insert company name here does it, and then they can begin, you know, in theory, launching thousands
all
of
the
YouTube
slop
videos
that you're
or
now
just
seeing
it's like
through every social media platform.
it's a very different paradigm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to find because it's kind of a gray area between those two
This
things.
entire conversation is a gray area.
was gonna
By the way, I just want to like put that out that I don't think anyone here has the answer to this.
Yeah.
But we certainly have feelings on it.
Yeah.
And
Because existentially, like the human believes the human is valuable, obviously. So the human wants to hear the human music, and the human wants to watch the human perform the skills, obviously. And so we don't think that we would respond well to like a robot creation. It wouldn't have the same attributes.
But even if
Well,
it
that's what I was
does,
going to
because
say
it
before
could-
to answer your question is how the human receives the art. I think that is the key point, because if you show two outputs that are the same, but you tell someone the human made this one, the human is going to inherently value that one more.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, someone should do that, blind test. Someone should do there's scientific method, like watch someone listen to a song when they are told that a human made it, and then watch a bunch of people listen to the same exact song when they are told that an AI made it. And then afterwards ask, what do you think? And if you get told the human made it, you'll go, oh, that was really soulful. I could hear the inspiration. And if you get told the robot made it, you'll go, that sounded really bland and generic and uninspired.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just because we believe that the human made it.
Probably, but also I feel like we just have to care more about the human generated stuff.
We gotta, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, even if there was quite literally no difference, if the blind test proved that nobody could actually tell the difference, do we want to live in a world where nobody makes anything?
And like there is a world like
that's the grayest.
There already to me is an example of someone who scraped a bunch of data, made a piece of art with AI that some people knew as AI, some people didn't know as AI, but everyone loved, and it ultimately didn't affect anything because it was one human creator just contributing to the conversation that is art. And what I'm talking about is the song of the summer, BBL Drizzy.
Is that an AI song?
Yes, that is someone who trained an AI on tons of different Motown
Wait,
and
that's
soul.
not a Kendrick song?
No. The beat where the singer's going BBL Drizzy. That's an AI generated voice. That's AI generated backing tracks. Metro Boomin sampled that with his human skill into a hip hop beat. But so I would argue there is room for human beings to use AI, train their own data sets, scrape and steal, and not disrupt. I'm going to keep using this word conversation because I really like it to describe the exchange of ideas and concepts.
But I think a computer could contribute to
No, a computer can. A $1 trillion company that can drastically alter the entire environment in which we create can really, and I'm going to curse, Ellis, bleep this out later, can really f*** your shit up, you know? F*** everybody's shit up.
Yeah. Anyway, we got way off track.
yeah, well,
sorry.
That's okay. We can go to maybe a couple things here that are in the still gray but less gray area, which
Sure.
are
Middle gray.
middle gray. Just like, yeah.
Sea log.
Let's talk about, first of all, scraping straight using the YouTube API subtitles.
Yeah, so we have to look into this.
Yeah. David and I spent a long time yesterday going into this, and I found a couple different things, or we found, sorry.
What'd you find?
It was mostly you.
Sundar and Nilay talked on Decoder about, this was back when OpenAI was potentially scraping YouTube data, and
Allegedly.
sorry. We're going to have to say a lot of allegedly. He responded that the YouTube team is following up and that there are some terms and conditions and that they expect people to abide by those terms and conditions. So that was like a very vague way of potentially saying like, we're looking
into it.
And it seems to go against our terms of conditions. But I found a much more precise quote from Neil Mohan talking to Bloomberg, the CEO of YouTube, saying that if Sora was using YouTube content, it would be a clear violation. He said, from a creator's perspective, when a creator uploads their hard work to our platform, they have certain expectations. One of those expectations is that the terms of service is going to be abided by. It does not allow for things like transcripts or video bits to be downloaded, and that is a clear violation of our terms of service. Those are the rules of the road in terms of content on our platform. So that is a very specific, funny enough, this was before all this came out, but he even mentions transcripts right there.
Yeah.
Scraping transcripts and downloading them from YouTube is against the terms of service.
Sounds pretty
So
specific.
YouTube has a case here of something. What I found interesting also, though, is we can all assume, Google has their own AI and Google has this gold mine of content on
Right.
their own platform.
Yeah.
Are they scraping?
Or not even scraping, just using.
Or just using the stuff that they have already?
Yeah.
Mohan mentioned something in that interview that I'm still not totally sure of. So I will let us maybe figure it out because I couldn't get a precise answer, and everyone else can think of it. But he said that Google, which owns YouTube, does use some YouTube videos to train its own AI platform, Gemini, but only if the individual creators on the platform agree to that in their contracts.
What?
I cannot figure out what that exact contract means, whether that is just the terms of service you have to agree to upload literally anything on their website.
Yeah,
whether it's the YouTube partnership program.
I looked at my contract, which was my terms of service.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything specific to it, but we were talking yesterday. It would just it wouldn't make any sense for Google to not do this. Like Reddit, for example, sells its user data to AI companies as training data. When you upload anything to Reddit, it is now the property of Reddit. When you upload any images to Instagram, those are now the property of Instagram.
Adobe too. Anything you do on the Adobe platform trains its AIs. I think you can opt out.
Well, there's a whole thing around that
Allegedly.
they've said that they don't, but it's a whole thing. Regardless, it's one of those things that's Neil used very vague phrasing there, and there's so many times when you check the checkbox that says I agree to the terms of service.
Yeah.
And in the terms of service is a thing that will give the company access to your information and your rights. Mm-hmm. It's I'm not going to say this is for sure, but it's very likely that somewhere in the terms of service gives YouTube the ability to co-license, as we saw in their terms of service, the content on YouTube to other companies, which you would assume they would do to Google.
Yep.
Because Google is YouTube and YouTube is Google.
I would assume that.
I'm going to assume that that's the case. We would love clarification on that.
For sure.
Anyone that works at YouTube, Neil, if you want to tweet at us or email us, we'd love to know about that. But it's the same gold mine analogy. It's like Google has the best possible opportunity to train the best possible model because they have the best possible source of information. And if they weren't doing that from a business perspective, that would just be stupid from a business perspective, even though I don't think they should be doing it, Yeah.
Google would have more of an argument too of being we're creating this platform that helps creators flourish through different partnership programs where they can make money. So we're going to also make some even more money on it. It's still this weird. I don't love it, but it's a way better explanation than Apple taking or Nvidia taking this random free thing that definitely broke terms of service to get in the first place.
Yeah.
I recently asked Gemini to summarize the latest MKBHD video, and it did. And there's an element of, how in fair use, there's an element of replaceability. Mm-hmm. So my work is considered derivative enough if it doesn't replace watching the original work. If I make a commentary on someone's video, but I don't use the entire video and I add my own thoughts and it's transformative, then it's not enough to replace watching the original video. Therefore, it is fair use. But Gemini summarizing my latest video feels like it can replace my video.
Yeah.
And in order to summarize my video, it needs to know about my video and be trained on my video. So I would argue that it's taking from me and replacing me in some way.
This is kind of the reason that there's been this huge conversation in the last year or so around the streamers that just play people's videos and don't even really react to them, and many of them will just leave the room while the video is being played.
Yes.
Because then they're getting the benefit, and it is replacing you and going and watching the video, because the thousands of people that are watching the streamer are not going to go to YouTube and watch your video. They're just going to watch it on the stream.
Yeah. I've seen people do that to my videos before.
Yeah. All the time.
Which is not cool, and it would be that would be a pretty good use of that. That's the line.
There is some sort of copyright law that's been debated, I think, from OpenAI and actual lawyers about if some of the scraping data is considered fair use, and I'm not exactly sure where it is. But even still,
pick your option. There's 100 different cases.
I'm sure there's a billion different cases going on. I just want to throw that out there that the fair use aspect of scraping AI data and using it for chatbots is being looked at right now.
Yeah.
But even still, in this specific thing with the Luther AI that we're talking about, is they broke terms of service, and that's far different from from.
Does the terms of service say that you can't scrape no matter what, or only if you're making money on it? Because that's always kind of been the question. Because you can upload a YouTube video that has a Taylor Swift song on it if you don't monetize it.
It's true.
So
I'm not totally sure.
that's kind of always the line.
I would assume most of it is less of it's always not allowed, but we're much more willing to go after the people making money. It would be my guess.
Also, can YouTube even do anything about this if Luther didn't agree to the terms of service? Like, they're not.
Yeah,
that's also a great question.
Yeah, that's true. Did they even agree to the terms of service? And
why would they have?
Is it more of just a legal thing? And also, once Apple has already, let's say Apple and NVIDIA and others have downloaded this data, but once Apple already trains their data and trains their models on all of this data, and then we find out, oh, actually some of this was not acquired legally or whatever, how do you reverse that? Is that reversible at all?
You have to retrain a new data set, a new model, which
to
costs
me
$1 billion.
it feels like that's a huge part of it too. It's it's already in the data, so not much we can do here.
This is the next thing I wanted to bring up in all of this is, what are our next steps here? If they trained it already, we just said you have to train a whole new data set, which is none of these companies are going to do.
So much extra carbon in the atmosphere.
Yeah. But then it's like, there's also the argument of what if you, like, Apple didn't take it, Luther stole the data, and now Apple's taking it. But I just like,
did Apple pay for the data from Luther?
I'm assuming no. I've not seen anything about it, but it's a free open source nonprofit set, so I don't even know if they even paid for it.
It's an open source set, which means they probably didn't pay for it. This is the exact same argument that happened with OpenAI when they were training ChatGPT and Dolly, was that they used all of these open scraped data sets online. And so then they weren't like, we didn't scrape it, we just took this open available information.
They get to say publicly available.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Right.
Some companies are partnering. Like we saw, because we work with Vox Media for ads on this podcast, and Vox partnered with OpenAI, and they're doing to train their data set. It was easy enough because we knew that happened. We could talk to Vox. It's just part of Vox Media, not part of their podcast network. We're not included in that. But that still is some sort of actual connection that they've made. So companies do actually connect with other media companies.
I think a lot of the companies are just there's a really good interview between Nilay and Nick Thompson, who is the, I believe, CEO of The Atlantic, or the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. He used to be the EIC for Wired. But he gives a huge explanation about why he's partnering with OpenAI to give them access to the Atlantic for training data. And they have sort of like this back and forth where they both give each other things. And I think the deal with OpenAI is like it's better for OpenAI to just make a deal with all these media companies, because then they don't get sued like the New York Times sued them, and they can kind of just give them credits and do all this different kind of stuff.
Acquire with permission.
Yeah.
Wow.
What a concept.
Yeah, what a concept.
Some of these companies are really struggling. That would probably cost a lot of extra money.
So if you want to hear like a good sort of breakdown from these publications' perspective of why they may give their data to these companies, you should listen to that interview. It's on Decoder.
I think with taking the Luther stuff, all the companies taking from there need to pay the due diligence to realize where the information is coming from. And they are all more than capable of doing that. And if that broke YouTube terms of service, they're pretty much just at fault for not. If you steal something,
We were talking about this yesterday. Like, make the analogy of like selling stolen goods on Craigslist.
I brought something up. This is in New York, so I'm sure laws change state to state. But to be convicted of possession of stolen property, actual knowledge of it being stolen is not required. All that is necessary is that you should have known. That means the prosecutor must only prove a reasonable person would have known the property was stolen. If you're getting tons of data for absolutely free, like, you should probably know that there's something.
What do you mean? I found this Rolex on Canal Street.
If you buy a bike on Craigslist for $40, that's a $500 bike. You should probably know that is probably stolen.
Yeah.
And like, Luther did not do this fairly, and all the companies that pulled from this and threw it into their training data probably should have known something sketchy was going on, or at least put the effort into figuring it out.
Right. You can just make this analogy like, you steal a watch from someone on Canal Street and you now just say it's yours. Like, that's what these companies are doing. And we already it's already a problem when you rip off people's writing, right? You can like take a big thing on Wikipedia, change some words slightly, and it's still plagiarism. This has been a huge conversation on YouTube in general recently because there's all these video essay YouTube channels that are literally just like reading Wikipedia or reading books verbatim and then like putting graphics over it and pretending that they wrote the whole thing.
Jeez, yeah.
And they'll just change some small sections and they'll be like, it's not plagiarism. I just took heavy inspiration. And it's like, no. And if you're making a language model and your whole model is based off of other people's work, even if you're changing the words, that's still heavy inspiration. And that's most of the New York Times lawsuit against OpenAI is kind of focused around this because they have many examples where they'll ask a question about a New York Times, about something that happened, and it'll basically just almost verbatim say the New York Times article, but it changes some of the adjectives.
I guess my last question, and maybe we can take a break after this, is, okay, so we know that these companies still want to make AI models and language models and things like that. What is the actual landscape of options for training data to make a good model? And I think that might be something that takes a whole lot more research that we don't know enough about, but it kind of feels like there are a relatively small number of absolutely gigantic models. And if you're Apple rushing into the scene where they probably shouldn't be, but not really being able to find huge models with gigantic amounts of information that contain zero improperly acquired information, that's a question I don't know the answer to.
I think all of these companies have the resources, or I shouldn't say all of them, all the ones that we're talking about, Apple, NVIDIA, have the resources to like be able to ask proper permission and have more options than they could ever imagine.
And or just
like,
pay people.
And just pay people.
Like if you're YouTube, if you're Google and YouTube, you can say, hey, we would love to like train our models using your YouTube transcripts. We will pay you 5% more ad revenue if you're willing to let us scrape your transcripts. What do you think? If you're Reddit, you could do the same thing. If you contribute a lot, we'll pay you based on how much you contribute to Reddit and keep conversations flowing, the quality of your conversations, stuff like that. These are all trillion-dollar companies. It's not like they can't afford to pay people.
They're the greatest and most intense nexuses of information in the history of humanity. Like they don't have the excuse to be like, I don't know. It's like you know as much as any entity has ever known ever.
Right.
If you're Apple, there's a reason that they're going to these companies to buy/license the data sets instead of going out and gathering it themselves.
Admittedly, Apple's in a much worse position than all these other companies because their entire brand is privacy.
Yeah.
Personally, but I still think they can go do their research on figuring out data sets that aren't.
No, that's my question.
Is
what options are available? Are there only 20 reasonably big data sets that they could train stuff on, or are there bajillions of options? I have no idea.
But I don't know the specifics of it, but I'm sure there are plenty of options that have like.
Are we sure? I don't know.
I
hope so.
I'm sure they can find a way.
I'm sure they could afford to pay someone to make a data set that was there's a. Before we go, we gotta probably wrap this up before we go to trivia. But there's a very similar thing going on in the art, like the physical art world, on the topic of provenance, where a lot of museums, especially in New York, are getting in trouble because most of their art is stolen. And yes, the Met over the past few years has had to return over 1,000 pieces to various countries, and the museum's excuse is, how are we supposed to know it was stolen? We bought it from a reputable art dealer who said it wasn't stolen. How are we supposed to know? And it, on the surface, it very much feels like, that's very reasonable. Like, how can you, if an art dealer got it from another art dealer who got it from another art dealer who bought it from a thief, how are you supposed to track that down? But the actual reality of the situation is almost never like that. Like, there's this awesome article from a year or two ago on ICIJI, which is an international journalist consortium, where they talk about there was an artifact that was stolen from Southeast Asia in the 80s that appeared in the museum in the 90s. Like, it only took 10 years from stolen to in the museum, and the museum was still like, how are we supposed to? It's like, dude, you are one of the biggest art museums in the world. Like, if you don't know,
like doing your due diligence, basically.
Yeah, it's like at a certain point, like, you have to own up to the amount of cred that you have and do things the right way, right?
Yeah. Well,
right?
Yeah, it also gets into so many like ethical boundaries of like, I mean, they have a bunch of Egyptian stuff direct from Egypt in the Met. And so there's all those questions of like, well, the British stole everything.
Yeah,
So
like-
when the British eventually sold that stuff, technically all of it is stolen.
Marques, I genuinely see where you're coming from, and I don't have the answer to your question, which I think proves your point to a large extent.
Yeah.
However, I fundamentally, in my soul, refuse to believe that this is not something that, again, the smartest, most valuable, farthest reaching entity in the history of humanity can't accomplish.
I agree. I think you have a really strong case, and I agree that it would make sense to believe that the strongest entity in humanity ever should have the ability to solve any problem that humanity comes up with. But I still don't know the answer to, like, I think I would love to see someone make an expose with whatever information is out there about like what the world of these data sets is actually like. Because there are the data sets that are used by OpenAI. OpenAI is a several bazillion-dollar company, and they have to go get data sets. Like Google, what are they using? When you're buying all of the content on Reddit and using Reddit information, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And if you're Apple and you have no data sets, how do you train a good AI? Where do you get that information? I don't know any of the answers, and I would love someone to find all of the answers.
Yeah.
I hope
That would be a great expose.
I hope nobody watching this thinks that our strong points on either side makes us think we do know the answer. This is just all a lot of arguing.
We're making an ethical argument, and that these companies don't care at all. They do not care because they're gonna make more money, even if they get sued and they get caught.
I mean,
and
they
they
want
get in
to look
trouble.
like they care.
The amount of money, sure, yeah.
What's the say? Move slowly and keep things intact? No, I feel like that's not.
Move fast and break terms of service.
Yeah.
Like nobody.
I
you
feel
know?
what we're talking about with is the more connection to us of scraping YouTube videos is what probably will happen is if YouTube does anything, Apple will or a Luther or whoever will pay Google a bunch of money, and then all of the YouTube videos that got stolen will see absolutely nothing of that.
Yeah, I do have to say it is
Doesn't
crazy
matter.
surprising that Google has not done anything about all of these companies that have obviously been scraping YouTube and breaking their terms of service. It is wild.
Yeah, the transcript
So
data is
far.
exposed in the API, and I don't know that there's any. I don't know what their method of protecting that information would be.
I guess, sorry. Now to go all the way back to, did they agree to the terms of service? If you use the YouTube API,
You'd have to.
do you have to agree to terms of service by using that?
I believe so.
So that might answer that question, but
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know
They might not
anything
even
about
be
APIs.
using the API. They might just have built a bot that can like
I've-
scrape.
I'm not 100% sure, but I thought a Luther said they used the API
I wa-
specifically.
I use the API for some of our data collection, and yes, you do need to agree to certain terms of service.
Apple's going to email
What are you
to
collecting?
see if
What are you collecting?
We should go to
That's for our
trivia.
channel.
Anyway, companies don't have your best interest in heart, and they like to make money. More at 11. I guess that's where we should take it to trivia. I'm so sorry, guys.
Yeah,
That was pretty
sorry.
intense.
the rabbit hole
We're
just
angry.
kept opening. Sick.
It's
day
always
is
fun
it?
when you go down an ethical.
The pod was supposed to go live 10 minutes ago.
Literally. All right.
It was cold when we started this, and now my hands are
Yeah,
cold.
no, I told you not to turn off the AC.
I know, you're right.
Second question. In 2013, Google launched their first consumer hardware device. What was it?
In what year?
2013.
2013, they launched their first Google hardware.
Consumer
device.
hardware device.
Consumer
Hardware.
2013.
13?
2013.
Oh, I have an answer. I got to write this down before.
So was 2008 and the Nexus S not considered a consumer hardware device?
That wasn't
Or like
Google.
Google didn't make it.
Oh.
We'll see. I don't know if it's right. We'll brainstorm it a little more. We got more to talk about, believe it or not.
I have
So
an idea.
yeah, we'll be right back. Support for Waveform comes from Miro. So there's nothing like finishing a big project to make you feel connected to your team, and there's nothing like an ineffective retrospective to deflate everyone involved. It's a lot of work to do it well, but you have to synthesize and categorize themes, get the team involved, assign next steps, and make it a fun, safe space where teammates want to participate. That's where Miro comes in. So Miro is the visual collaboration platform that helps you run effective, engaging, and actionable retrospectives to help ensure your team members' voices are heard. With features like retro templates, icebreakers, and AI compatibilities to summarize outcomes, Miro can help keep your team engaged and accountable while identifying and solving hurdles together. Plus, it can help ensure your team shares their ideas without fear with private mode. So in private mode, teammates can anonymously add notes to the board and also have access to tools like voting and timers to help you facilitate communication between groups. So whether you work in product design, engineering, UX, agile, or marketing, bring your team together on Miro. Your first 3 Miro boards are free when you sign up today at Miro.com. That's 3 free boards at Miro.com.
Support for this show comes from Meta.
Have a question or need how-to advice? Just ask Meta AI. Whether you want to design a marathon training program that will get you race ready for the fall, or you're curious what planets are visible in tonight's sky, Meta AI has the answers. Perhaps you want to learn how to plant basil when your garden only gets indirect sunlight. Meta AI is your intelligent assistant. It can even answer your follow-up questions, like what you can make with your basil and other ingredients you have in your fridge. Meta AI can also summarize your class notes, visualize your ideas, and so much more. The best part is you can find Meta AI right in the apps you already have: Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, and Messenger. Just tag Meta AI in your chat or tap the icon in the search bar to get started. It's the most advanced AI at your fingertips. Expand your world with Meta AI.
Support for Waveform comes from Netsuite. So your business won't be a business for very long if you can't manage a few essential tasks. And I've got bad news for you. These aren't the fun tasks, like product design and marketing. I'm talking about HR, inventory, basic accounting needs, like very grown-up stuff. So if you're having trouble wrangling all those to-dos in one place, you might want to try NetSuite. So NetSuite is a top-rated financial system bringing together accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one platform and one source of truth. With NetSuite, you can reduce IT costs because NetSuite lives in the cloud with no hardware required. It's accessible from anywhere. And you can cut out the cost of maintaining multiple systems because you've got one unified business management suite. Plus, NetSuite can help you improve your efficiency by bringing all of your major business processes into one platform, slashing manual tasks and errors. Over 37,000 companies have already made the move to NetSuite. By popular demand, NetSuite has extended its one-of-a-kind flexible financing program for a few more weeks. So head to netsuite.com/waveform. That's netsuite.com/waveform. netsuite.com/waveform. All right, welcome back. I have one last thing to talk about. This is kind of random off the wall, but every time Canon comes out with a new mirrorless camera, they absolutely nail it. With every single new spec, they finally added the thing that we were begging them to add.
Except.
And then they mess up one thing that makes it critically flawed and kind of an issue.
Yeah.
They make amazing cameras. I just have to say, like we still use a lot of Canon cameras. I'm looking right at a C100, C300. We shoot C70s for studio. We have R5s everywhere.
500 Mark
C500s.
II.
I love these things, right? They're really, really good. But R5, you might remember, had the overheating issue. Like, the really good cameras, great autofocus, a whole bunch of awesome stuff. And then but it overheats when you shoot 8K.
Yeah.
Or they have like a really great vlog camera that's finally smaller and finally has great codecs. And but the camera doesn't flip around.
Yeah.
Or the monitor doesn't flip
The
around.
R5C was everything we wanted, but the battery lasts 20 minutes.
And doesn't have EIS.
This, I would argue almost this happens.
IBIS.
IBIS, yeah.
Can I argue this happens with just like mirrorless cameras? Because this happens with Sony
That's
too.
totally true.
They like do all these cool things and then they'll like flip up screen only flips up. So if you have an external microphone, or then they fix that and flips it to the side, but that's where the microphone audio jack was. So it's just in front.
It to be imperfect so that they can release another camera that you'll buy.
Well, this brings me to the newest announcement.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, and I personally don't see the Achilles heel. Someone's going to point it out in the comments and break my heart. But as of right now, Canon's released 2 new cameras, the R1, but also the R5 Mark II. Yeah. This R5 Mark II, I think, for $4,300 is going to be pretty sick. 8K 60, C-Log 2 got added, full-size HDMI port instead of that dinky like mini HDMI on the R5.
HDMI, yeah.
4K 120 with audio.
Oh.
It has a cooling battery grip, so obviously there's a firmware update a while ago to like improve the cooling on the R5, but a cooling battery grip to have longer battery. There's like more specific batteries for this, but it shouldn't overheat. It has electronic image stabilization that works with the stabilization built into RF lenses. I mean, I'm going down this list and I'm like, it seems like a pretty sick camera.
Records onto micro SD.
I'm like,
oh my goodness.
it still has all the fundamentals. It's like it's still a good sized camera. It's 45 megapixels. It takes fast stills, like all of the things that you'd normally expect out of a camera. So I'm worried about what might go wrong when reviews come out. But as of right now, I think R5 Mark II is that camera.
I'm trying to confirm this, but I think I may have found something. I can't see a picture.
Is the sensor a triangle? What's going on?
No, I really liked that joke this morning. Like that would. Okay, so one of the coolest things I think about the R5 Mark I that we have is every time you take the lens off, the shutter shuts and it protects the sensor. And I think every single camera should have that. There's just a photo here and it looks like the sensor's just open, but maybe he did that on purpose. But if they took that away from this one,
No, it has it still.
it still has it?
Yeah, I saw it in Peter's video.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I think every single mirrorless camera needs, or every single DSLR
It's
needs
a good
that.
feature because
It's
the
so
R reds are mirrorless and they get little dust particles on the sensor all the time.
If you're changing lenses all the time, it just makes you feel so much better.
I'm just saying, Canon
man.
people, let me know what I'm missing because I think I'm going to end up spending $4,000 on one.
Yeah.
On one?
$42.99 specifically.
4,300. It's not cheap. I don't want to go buying a bunch of stuff, but like I think
It
they
also
did it.
has eye tracked autofocus, so you can look at the thing you want it to focus on, and it'll focus on that.
Wait, what?
Yes, and I want to point out that a film camera from Canon actually had this back in the day, and it was
So when you're saying eye tracking, you don't mean it's tracking the eye
No.
of what I'm shooting.
No,
It's
no.
using my eye
Yes.
and which autofocus point I look at
Correct.
to focus on the subject.
Yes.
What's wrong with this camera?
Wait, I don't know if I like that.
Something is going to be
Why?
horribly wrong with this camera.
Yeah, you basically just look at what you want it to focus on, and it changes the focus to it.
But there are some
And,
times where I'm like looking at something behind the subject just to like watch it go out of frame or something like that. So it's
don't
just going to
look behind
focus
it.
on that. Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on.
off.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need to confirm here. So if you're looking through the EVF, what you're looking at?
Yes.
Okay, I thought you meant like if I were in frame,
Yeah, that's
and
it.
I like put something up in front of me and looked at it,
No.
it would rack focus to that.
No.
That's
Yes.
really cool.
And they had this in the Canon EOS 5, also known as the A2 and
Oh,
A2E
we have one of those.
film cameras. Oh. Yeah, film cameras.
we don't.
Yeah, and it was super cool. And now I imagine it is way, way, way better than it was back in the day, but they call it IAF2. And I imagine the first one was IAF1. I just remember seeing this on that film camera and being like, why has nobody done this again?
Sick. And if it's bad, you can just turn it off.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
I'm scared.
There will be something wrong. Don't worry.
I'm scared.
We'll find out when Marques
I'm reading
gets his.
comments on this to see.
It
what
also
people
says they
know.
have C-Log 2. And for those that don't know, for some reason, the R5 has C-Log 1 and C-Log 3. Log profiles shoot very flat so that you have a lot of room to grade. Famously, C-Log 1 and C-Log 2 are not good. I do not like them at all.
C-Log 2 we like.
C-Log 2, very good.
We like.
And they've always we like.
We like.
They have always kept those for some reason for the
Cine cameras.
The Cine cameras. And I know, there's a reason for it. Obviously, they don't want to cannibalize their own market. They are so worried about that all the time. So bringing that onto this, I think it's going to be awesome.
That's what scares me because like you would think like R5C Mark II would have this, but the fact that they're
Yeah.
bringing this to R5, I keep thinking like, what did they nuke?
Yeah.
What did they do?
Something's missing.
Is it C-Log 2 light?
It's like walking up to a dog like, what's in your mouth? What's in your mouth? What did you do? I'm
did you
terrified.
eat?
I don't know what it is, but it's going to be crazy. Okay, well, we might have to
Yeah.
get one.
Did you mention full size HDMI?
Full size, yeah.
Yeah.
The real deal. We just plug
No.
right into a monitor.
I feel like we lose those stupid adapters every single time we get one. We're like,
Or they break. They're
They're
not,
so finicky.
they're not durable.
They also announced the EOS R1, which is $6,300.
It's like the flagship.
Yes.
The sports photograph.
It is basically the mirrorless version of the
1DX.
1DX.
Yeah.
And it does 40 FPS RAW,
Yeah.
which is crazy. It's 24 megapixel, but it has some in-camera AI upscaling thing that can apparently upscale it to a much higher resolution.
Okay.
So very interesting. We've been wondering for like a lot of years when our camera is going to start catching up to smartphones in terms of like the computational photography and processing. And it seems like that's finally happening. But apparently it can generate a 96 megapixel image.
I'm not as worried about that sucking because like a smartphone sensor and optics are so small that like you kind of need some computational assistance to make a great big image. I mean, I'm looking at a film person. Like the bigger the sensor, the bigger the optics, the more room you have to make good images. And I'm not surprised that a full frame sensor with a huge lens can be upscaled and still look good.
Yeah.
Or like a crappy 12 megapixel camera phone photo needs help.
There's no light intake at all.
So like a fast sports photo, like, okay, give me less megapixels on the raw capture, but then you can upscale and have a good looking image.
Yeah, and 24 megapixels on a full frame sensor, you're getting quite a bit of light on each pixel.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's exciting.
I found something on the R5 Mark II that let me know
God.
if this is a problem.
Oh my God.
New battery type. None of the old ones
I saw
work.
that. I am willing to accept that. Because it seems like it should still, because there's new grips and stuff, it should have better battery life, and I don't have a ton of R5 batteries anyway, so I'm not mad about losing that.
And if you're a new purchaser and didn't have the previous ones, that doesn't affect you at all. So that does suck if you're upgrading.
Yeah.
But it feels standalone enough to not be.
I have like 3 R5 batteries or something.
All right, I'll keep looking for a deal breaker.
I also
Dude, the
wanna know-
cooling grip is $750.
Yeah. I want to note really quickly that they did put that eye tracking in the EOS R3, which is the APS-C camera that they made the lens for the Vision Pro, right? Oh, no, that's the R7, sorry. They put it in the R3, which I don't really know a lot about the R3, but apparently they put that in there first, so this is the second camera to have it.
You know, they go the opposite direction of Audi models as far as like names versus size. This is such a stupid comment. Why am I even saying? Why is this coming out of my mouth? RS3, RS5, RS7 gets bigger, but like R1 is the biggest one. R3 is smaller. R5. Yeah.
Canon's always done this though, right? Like 1D, 5D.
Yeah, it's the big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I even said that. Anyway,
What is coming out of my mouth?
why am I saying I should stop and think first?
What language model am I being run on right now?
Anyway, we've talked for so long. We should do trivia. Let's do trivia.
Let's do trivia. I feel like this might be the longest episode.
It might be.
We're off from last week's episode still by like 20 plus
Really?
minutes, and that's with goofing around for 15 minutes in the beginning.
Goofing around.
Question number 1, trivia. Let's kick up the energy.
Trivia, dude.
Web crawlers. We know them as web crawlers. When I say web crawler, everybody knows what we're talking about. But
Google.com.
some people use different words. I have 3 of them. One of them is possibly fake. Which one did I make up? Hit it. A, spider. B, automatic indexer. C, web scudder. Or D, these are all real and I didn't make anything up at all.
Before, I thought you were going to say, I say web, you say
Scudder.
no,
Web.
scraper,
Web.
Get
browser.
out of the gutter.
Nice. What do we got, boys?
Oh, wow. We all said different things.
And you're all wrong.
It was D.
But you should read your answers anyway.
All right, I wrote C. Yeah.
Spider.
The X. I wrote the AI one.
Unfortunately, no. Spider was used by Scott Spetka in his early paper Robot, or excuse me, the Robot, Beyond Browsing, early
remember that
computer
one.
research paper.
Yeah.
Automatic Indexer was used by Mei Kobayashi, and I forget his first name, but the last name is Takeda, in a 2000 paper sponsored by IBM called Information Retrieval on the Web. And Web Scudder is present in the FOAF official documentation paradigm, which I think some of was written by Tim Berners-Lee, but I'm not going to say that. I think it might have been, but I'm not really sure. And D, the correct answer is these are all real.
I just about wrote
I
that.
couldn't come up with anything funny this week, guys. I'm sorry.
All right.
I'll never forgive
Dang,
you.
it's so crazy how David knew all of that and he still got it wrong.
I know.
Damn, wild.
I know. Every time.
Hate when
Every
that
time.
happens.
Yeah. I'm
All
just
right.
trying to. I'm ahead, so I'm trying to like give you guys. A
Yeah,
chance.
that's fair. Quick update on the score.
Are you ahead? Dang.
Yeah.
Marques with 14. Andrew with 13. David with 14.
Oh.
Ellis carrying the one.
Oh, I thought I was 1 point over.
No, you're 1 point over Andrew, but you and Marques are tied up.
Really?
Got him.
All right.
Right where I want to be.
Second question. In 2013, Google launched the first consumer hardware device that they ever launched. What was it?
I think
Therefore, I am.
I still have it.
Really?
Wait, really?
Wait, 2013?
2013.
Trying to get a reaction to see. If
Oh
I'm right.
no.
Oh, yeah.
Is it what I think it is? No. I don't know if I'd consider that consumer hardware.
Oh yeah.
I think
Flip
my
'em
thing
and
is
read.
from before 2013.
Okay.
What do you
wait.
I don't know.
David, flip it.
Chromecast.
Oh,
Nice.
good job.
Andrew,
When you
what'd you
said
put?
it, I wrote Chromebook.
Marques?
I wrote the Chromebook CR48.
Nope. Their first ever consumer hardware device was
Good
the
call.
Chromecast.
That's a
in
Wait.
2013.
When was that?
2013.
But the CR48 was 2010.
Who made it?
Google.
But wasn't the question in 2013?
Well, I just happened to come up with the actual first one. You know what I mean?
I feel you.
I feel like I'm right.
I only agree with Marques if me
Okay.
just saying Chromebook also counts in that.
Where did you get the answer from, Adam?
the keyword, which is Google's blog.
What did Google say?
They said the Chromecast.
Chromecast.
They said the Chromecast is the first consumer
The first consumer
Source.
hardware device.
hardware
This
device.
Chromebook
Source is
had
Google.
Wow.
The
That's
source
weird
is
that they
Google.
would forget about their own.
Interesting.
It's all matte black, no logos anywhere.
What if we both
First
get points?
Chromebook.
Holy crap. In real time, Marques has unearthed a product that is older than the Chromecast.
Yeah,
You're not shocked that Google forgot about one of their own.
No. I'm not shocked that they forgot about their own product.
Petition for us to all get a point because we're all.
I think we should all get
some way.
points because we're all
You came up with the answer that Google somehow thought was the right answer, and so you should get a point for that.
Yeah.
I came up with the actual answer, which is their actual first consumer hardware product.
Yeah.
And I stumbled upon
Wrote down a generic-
wait. But if we're letting the C48 in, then wouldn't just the G1 be the first Google consumer hardware product? Because that's as much Google made as yours. The one I'm looking at is a 2013 Chromebook.
That was an HTC.
Yeah,
it had
it
an
was the
HTC logo
Dream.
on it.
Yes, but yours doesn't have an Acer logo.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have a
no
logo.
logo.
Blank.
It has no logo.
But also, if we gave Andrew the point and didn't give it to either of you guys, you would all be tied at 14, and I think that makes the game really fun.
No, what are you talking about?
There's no world where David shouldn't get a point.
I agree.
But there's also no world that Andrew gets a point and I don't.
Unfortunately, I think both of those worlds are the ones we currently inhabit.
What are you talking about?
This is insane.
Is it that insane?
This is crazy.
Yes, it is insane.
Okay,
Also,
I have an idea.
Low-key Chromebook Pixel was
I'm going to suspend the points from this week
what?
and make a poll on Threads and Twitter. And let
Can you
the
just do a
audience
YouTube
decide.
community?
Sure, YouTube
Yeah,
community.
YouTube community.
Only YouTube community. So
Don't tell them who said which answer.
I just want to say I did not expect this question to be so controversial
contentious.
because I thought Google would have gotten this pretty straightforwardly right.
Yeah.
But turns out their blog is wrong.
They must have
looking up the
used
back.
the like AI generated results to write this.
Who
blog
wrote
post.
it?
Actually, yeah. Can we confirm that this keyword post was not written by an AI?
It was not, and I'm not putting them on blast. So go to YouTube community and vote on who gets the correct point, and I will update next week.
What are you listing? All three and
Is it multiple choice?
each of our names and everyone gets a
no,
point,
just
or just each of
Yeah,
our
just
names?
Just the answer.
Chromebook,
Oh,
Yeah.
Chromebook. What was it? P48,
CR48.
CR48,
Chromecast.
Chromecast.
Are you just letting people decide?
Yes, because I
where does the Nexus Q fall into all of this?
vote.
Too late.
You can't
late
just
in
do
days.
that.
We live in a democracy, David.
Anyway, final answer is
The Chromecast.
vote in the poll. I hope it's like multiple choice so you can pick like two instead of just one. But anyway, We'll pause points till next week to figure that one out. Thanks for voting. Yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks for
Stop
watching.
the ballots.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back to regular length podcast next week. I promise. I swear.
We won't.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
See you then.
Waveform was produced by Adam Molina and Ellis Rovin. We're partnered with Vox Media Podcast Network, and our intro outro music was Vainsil.
Bingo.
Make good choices.
Make good choices.
And we didn't steal any of this.
I'm sticking. We could make that into a paid service, you know.
We come to your Fiverr, TaskRabbit.
We come to your house and just make Mario sounds.